History of Egypt. Over 8,000 years ago, hunters and fishermen became the first people to dwell along the Nile's banks. They started to establish towns and villages after learning how to cultivate crops and keep livestock. They learnt to sail boats and engaged in trading with their neighbors. A society had emerged by 3000 BC. A strong king, later known as a pharaoh, united the kingdoms of Upper and Lower Egypt in 3100 BC. These kings constructed enormous pyramids, temples, and other magnificent structures. They also took over other nations. Egypt had fragmented into smaller pieces and was in decline by 1000 BC. Strong neighbors have historically assaulted and occupied Egyptian territory. Egypt was conquered by the Romans in 31 BC and by Muslim soldiers in AD 640. These Arab conquerors established Cairo as the country's current capital and dominated Egypt for numerous centuries. The British invaded and took control of Egypt in 1882. The Suez Canal, which connected the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea and significantly shortened the sailing journey from Asia to Europe, was something the British sought to dominate. Up until 1952, when Egypt proclaimed its independence, the British remained. The majority of Egyptians, 90%, are Muslims, or adherents of the Islam religion. One of the first branches of Christianity, the Copts make up about 10% of the Egyptian population. The population of Egypt is expanding quickly. Since most Egyptians reside in a small area near the Nile River, this places a strain on the country's resources. Everywhere there are too many people, from schools and hospitals to apartment buildings and public transportation, there is overpopulation. In Egypt, especially in the countryside where they assist on family farms, children are highly respected. Children are also expected to take care of their aging parents. Geographically, racially, historically, and militarily strong, Egypt has a significant regional influence. Egypt is a democratic country, despite some critics' claims to the contrary. There was never more than one presidential candidate up for election until 2005. Oil and gas, which are exported to other nations, are Egypt's most important resources. Metals, textiles, cattle, and chemical goods are among the other exports. Egypt's economy also heavily relies on tourism, which draws tourists to the nation's stunning beaches and world-famous historic monuments. Cheetahs, hyenas, crocodiles, and cobras are just a few of the many animals and plants that can be found in Egypt. The best places to see Egypt's wildlife are in its 21 protected regions, which include oases, deserts, mountains, coastal areas, river islands and wetlands. Egyptians have long had a strong connection to nature. Large animals like elephants, hippos, leopards, and cheetahs are shown in the paintings and carvings that the ancient Egyptians left behind, and which are still visible today. These creatures were originally widespread in Egypt, but because of hunting and habitat destruction, they are now either rare or extinct. Egypt would be entirely deserted absent the Nile River. Egypt receives only approximately 2.5 centimeters of rain on average yearly. However, rainfall at the Nile's source, which is located far to the south in Ethiopia, cause the river to increase each summer. When this occurs, floods fill the valleys of the river, leaving the sediments necessary for the growth of trees, plants, and crops. Upper Egypt, in the south, and Lower Egypt, in the north, are the two regions that make up Egypt. The Nile runs from south to north, hence the names of the sections. On the north coast of the nation, the river drains into the Mediterranean Sea. Low mountains and desert can be found in southern Egypt. Wide valleys close to the Nile and desert to the east and west can be found in northern Egypt. The vast, triangular Nile River delta is located north of Cairo, Egypt's capital city. This fertile land is completely covered with farms. Most ancient Egyptian pyramids were built as tombs for pharaohs, rulers of ancient Egypt, and their families. To date, over 130 pyramids have been discovered in Egypt. The Egyptians placed a high value on the afterlife. They believed that by mummifying a deceased person's body, which they did, their soul would continue to live on in the afterlife. The largest Egyptian pyramid is the Pyramid of Khufu in Giza. This amazing edifice weighs the same as 16 Empire State Buildings. Makeup was worn by both men and women in Egypt. Typically, the eye paint was either black or green, made of copper, made from lead. The Egyptians thought that makeup not only provided sun protection, but also had magical healing properties. An ancient Egyptian mummy's bandages may extend 1.6 kilometers if they were not wrapped. More than 700 hieroglyphs made up the Egyptian alphabet. Check out our fantastic hieroglyphics feature to learn the significance of these historic symbols. More than 2,000 deities were worshipped by the ancient Egyptians. From hazards to tasks, they had gods for everything. Each had distinct duties and required worship in order to maintain the harmony of life. Ancient Egyptians revered cats as sacred creatures. Most households are said to have kept cats as pets because they thought having one would be lucky for their home. Playing games on a board with your friends? So did the ancient Egyptians. Gang. Senet was a well-liked game that has been played for over 2,000 years. Similar to how dice are thrown, sticks were used in this game to determine how many squares needed to be moved forward for each player's piece. Numerous inventions made by the ancient Egyptians are still in use today, including toothpaste, paper, pens, locks, and keys. Viewers, your comments are very important to us. How did you like the video? Please let us know your opinion, and if you like the video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you can be aware of our upcoming videos.